On today's Titan Wealth podcast, I'm chatting to Mathew Samuel, who has carved out a real niche in the business, specialising in giving financial advice to clients with US connections. We talk not only about his professional journey, but also about his personal journey. It's a really great story of somebody that's been with Titan right from the beginning. Hi Matt, welcome to the Titan Wealth podcast.
Thank you.
I've been really looking forward to this because we haven't really crossed paths professionally, so I'm looking forward to this chat and getting to know what it is that you do. So my understanding is that you're a UK chartered financial planner, you're based in Dubai, but you work with US connected clients, is that right?
That is right, yes, Sophie. Yeah, so I'm like you said, UK chartered, based out here in the Dubai office, operating in the international space, so representing Titan Wealth International. But a lot of what I do is helping people in the US who have, situations where they want to understand what they can and can't do with their overseas assets, things like UK pensions in particular, given the UK backgrounds. We've got a lot of British expats in the US that I look after and the team look after. But then on the flip side of things, I do and the team do a lot of work with US expats. So people who have a US tie, they'll be maybe a green card holder or US citizen, and they've since left the US and are living in places like the UK, Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia, and Australia as well.
That's quite a niche expertise then. So when did this turn from being just kind of something that you were seeing more and more of to being your kind of specialist subject, your mastermind topic?
Yeah, the mastermind topic, I guess, was thrusted upon me when I came back to the business 5 years ago. Okay. So a bit of context, I worked with the guys 9 years ago, long time ago. I worked with Will Burrows.
In Dubai?
In Dubai, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so you're from the UK?
From the UK.
Right, and so how long have you been out here?
Been out here on and off now for 9 years.
Okay.
So I moved out here on a graduate scheme, finished university, came out and was put in a position with William Burrows in a previous company where I worked as his associate. So basically learnt the rope from Will and his team.
Okay.
Did that for a couple of years, really understood what hard work meant when you're working with someone like Will, who's a fast-paced guy, and eventually moved back to the UK for a couple of years. So I effectively did all my exams whilst I was in the UAE, became level 4 qualified, was offered an advisor role to work in the UK space for a different company. I effectively learned more of the ropes in terms of on-hand financial advising, speaking with clients, did that for a couple of years, and then moved back to the UAE with Will, Tyler, all of the other guys with effectively what is now Titan Wealth.
That's really nice then that you obviously had a good experience with those guys first time round, so that moving back to work with them when you came back out here was a no-brainer for you.
Yeah. Everyone always jokes that I went on loan for a couple of years. So the plan was always to come back at some point, and the relationship, we always stayed in touch, not just with Will and Tyler, but the other guys as well, Mark. Mark Beattie had a big hand in bringing me back over. And haven't looked back since. But going back to your question though, why did I fall into the US? Well, when I came back to Dubai, we had almost just started in the US region. So the company, again, previously AHR, was regulated at that point in most jurisdictions, but we were very new to the US space. And at the time, there was only a couple of other advisors operating in the US, so it felt like the right place for me to focus on. Mm-hmm. So my niche, my specialty was, I guess, for the last 5 years, has always really been US focused.
Okay. And so how do you find those clients, or how do those clients find you? Is it a case of you're just hoping to do a good job for somebody and then that they will tell other people? Or, is there a specific strategy for working out the people who you can help? Yeah,
I mean, that's a big part. Doing a good job with the client, first and foremost, building that relationship and trust so that they're happy to introduce you to their family member, ex-colleague, friend. That's a huge part of what we do and how we generate, I guess, more business within the group. But also marketing strategy. So we've got a lot of, we have for years now had a presence online where people would make inquiries on our websites, even things like Facebook, LinkedIn. We would get a lot of inbound inquiries. We've also got a business development team as well that assists in I guess, again, building lead generation for us as advisors, making sure that the diary is always busy with inquiries from potential clients, people that we can speak with, have a half-hour conversation with, just really tell them a little bit about who we are and what we do, and see if there's any areas of value that we can add to their position.
And I would assume then, as Dubai has grown so quickly over the last decade or two, and, anyone who's anyone in terms of multinationals will now have a presence here, I assume that then brings with it a whole new client base for you, because I guess people will be relocating from all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. UK in particular, as most people have seen, there's an abundance of individuals moving from the UK to not just the UAE, but overseas in general. So us as a company, I guess it's been great. We welcomed it with open arms, and the level of inquiries has increased over the years, I'd say. And that's kind of come with the fact that as a company we've grown. The rebranding of Titan Wealth International has helped. We've now got the UK business, which already adds an element of trust with clients when we're speaking with them. And yeah, so from our side of things, having that ability to service a client here, but also understanding where they're coming from, whether it be the UK, somewhere in Europe, Australia, US, is fundamental to being able to advise pretty much any individual in this region and most regions.
And has anything changed for you since you and us were bought by Titan, now that we fall under one brand?
Yeah. I mean, as a team, the US team has grown organically within the group. We have continued what we were doing before. We've gone from that 2 or 3 man team 5 years ago to, oh God, I'd love to know the numbers, but we are advisor-wise way into the double digits of advisors now. That's continuing to grow. A big part of that is Titan. Being part of Titan, people want to work for us or with us. And it also helps now speaking with clients. Like, again, if you're speaking with a US expat, Titan don't have a huge presence in the US. So they're not going to... Yet, of course.
Big dreams.
Big dreams. Give it 5 years and we'll be all over the place, hopefully. Watch out, Fidelity. But the fact that they can go online and see the size of the company, the fact we can talk about how we've got offices all over the world, but we've got such a big presence in the UK, which is arguably one of the most regulated environments in the world, I think already builds that level of credibility and trust just to get to that next stage of the conversation. Not necessarily to take on a client straight away. You still need to do a lot more with the client to build that trust, but it gets you past the first hurdle, I'd say.
In terms of mobility of your clients then, have you worked yet with any clients that have gone through all 3 of those jurisdictions, so UK, Dubai and US?
Yeah. It's an interesting one. A few, actually. Recently spoke to someone about 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
who was based here in the UAE.
This is hot off the press, guys.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a coincidence this. He's basically just moved from the UK to the UAE, but he's an American. And plans to move back to the US in 5 years or so. So we're looking at his US assets, first of all, UK assets, and how all of that intertwines with the tax offices, with HMRC, the IRS, and obviously living here in the UAE. You'd think it's as simple as, right, the UAE, there's no tax. So therefore, whatever you do, there's never going to be any tax. But that's not always the case. You've got to be careful. You've got things called double taxation agreements. Yeah. A lot of wording, a lot of literature. It's our job to make sure we understand that.
A lot of acronyms, right?
A lot of acronyms.
W8s.
W8
FATCA,
bends,
CRS.
FATCAs, yeah. And when you're saying that to clients, you have to, as advisors, we always have to step back and just kind of assume that they don't know what that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than throwing those acronyms their way, because it just confuses them a little bit more, potentially. Most of them do, to be fair. But yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, we do get a lot of those cases in particular.
And then there's obviously a big difference between somebody being a US citizen based elsewhere in the world and somebody being based in the US but not a US citizen, right? There's a lot of tax complexities around that, isn't there?
There is.
How do you keep up to speed with all that and navigate that? And are you using kind of third-party businesses to consult with and whatnot?
We are surprisingly not within Titan, because Titan seem to have everything and anything in terms of services and specialties, but we do have we don't yet have a tax consultancy business within the Titan group that specialises in UK US. So yes, I've got a good few relationships with guys in the UK and in the US. So if I ever need some help on any changes in legislation, we're not too sure about this particular type of planning and how that tax office is going to treat it, then we can lean on their expertise. They can offer official tax advice and effectively make sure that what we're saying to a client is in writing, on paper, knowing that it's effectively backed up. If
Absolutely
the tax office,
bang on, basically.
Yeah, exactly that.
So you also lead a team, is that right?
I do, yes.
So how big is your team, and where are they all based?
Yeah, so you could argue I've got two teams. There's a team that work within my group of clients. So I look after a number of clients, US focused in particular. So I have an associate, Renee. She is brilliant, handles a lot of the analysis that I do for my clients, a lot of the reports, a lot of the review documents and presentations, a lot of the scheduling as well. Allows me to effectively focus on the meetings.
She does all the hard work. This is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, all of the stuff that's not very fun
Oh, bless.
anymore that I at one point had to do
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
career.
It's a rite of passage, isn't it?
Exactly. Renee will do this for a couple of years. She'll do her exams and eventually become an advisor herself, and she'll be a very good advisor at that. And then I've got Nico. He's my assistant, works with me on an administrative basis. All the paperwork that my clients need doing and I need doing, he'll get it done like that. He's very, very good. He's around the corner actually at the moment. That's my team with myself and the advisors, but I'm also a team director. So there's 7-8 advisors that are effectively looked after by myself. I say looked after, I'm effectively a point of contact. We do regular meetings, bit of training here and there, just to make sure that they're on track to hitting their targets throughout the year. They're up to speed with all of the compliance requirements, doing the reviews as they should be. Any questions, they come to me generally. Yeah.
And has Titan supported that journey then from financial planner to team leader?
Yeah, absolutely. They've encouraged it. So it came about, I'd say just over a year ago, the kind of conversations as we've grown as a business, it didn't make sense for the guys like the Tylers and the Wills, so for reference, like the managing directors and the chief revenue officers, to be looking after 50, 60, 70 advisors. So they've almost divvied that out between me and 6 other guys to assist with that, so then they can focus on growing the company and achieving what they're trying to achieve. So yeah, it's been well structured. They provide a lot of support. It also ensures that me and the other team directors remain in regular contact with the guys like your Tylers and your Wills who are running the business. So then at least we're nice and informed along the way as well. So far we're a year in and no complaints my end.
And what has that journey taught you about, in terms of the leadership journey, what skills have you had to learn, or have you had to draw on that perhaps you already existed in you, but you needed to, finesse and hone?
Yeah, it's the finesse. I think that's the part, because I'm naturally in a game which is quite a selfish one.
Yeah, okay.
And it's not to say that every advisor is selfish, but by nature you are having to focus on yourself and building your individual team, like me and Renee and Nico, and building your clients.
Sure.
And then you're tasked with helping 7 other advisors do the same thing. So you are then automatically pushed into being selfless, giving your time to them whenever needed, making a good impression. I think, I'm certain I'm younger than all of the guys I'm looking after, so I still need to have an element of credibility there when I'm speaking to some of the more senior advisors.
Sure.
In terms of age anyway. So yeah, a number of things.
That's very self-aware, I think. And it's a really good story in terms of the development of somebody within Titan, because you really have started right from, I don't want to say the bottom, sounds bad. It's not, but you were coming straight as a grad, with no experience. And although you had your little hiatus in the middle back to the UK, actually you've been on that whole journey right from the beginning to where you are today. A lot of that with Titan as a business. So it's really amazing to see that development of a person.
Yeah, and I think it shows that anyone can do it. Like anyone can join the business today, or anyone that's part of the business today can see potentially a progression from where they're at now to becoming an advisor, to becoming more senior as an advisor, then maybe to fall into more of a management role. I think as Titan continues to grow, there's going to be an abundance of opportunities for people like myself who are kind of hungry to move into roles and keep up with the growth of Titan along the way. Mm-hmm.
So do you anticipate then that the kind of your team may end up as a blueprint, if you like, for other teams with specific niche expertise for different geographic locations? For example, as and when we have clients moving in and out of Europe or perhaps Asia, Do you think that there will be other teams that sit alongside yours that specialise in different areas?
Yeah, I mean, we almost have that now, but admittedly not in every jurisdiction. So US,
Got to start somewhere, right?
Exactly right. And if US in particular, if someone has a client, UK in particular, if you're a UK advisor, a UK individual's got US assets, naturally they'll come to our team. One of us, myself, or one of the other advisors will be able to assist exactly what you've just said. And we have got that in places like Australia. We've got a number of offices in Australia now, local domestic Australian advisors who can assist with any Australian related queries. Same with out here in the Middle East, same in South Africa, same in South America. We've got a couple of South American advisors who specialize in certain countries around those regions. I think, like you said, I think that will continue to develop though, and we will find even more specific niches. Like for example, Europe, you can say that you're an EU advisor, but there's like every single country has a completely different regime, completely different tax office. So arguably over the next few years, we might need a Spanish expert, a French expert, Danish, Finland, like everywhere, right? And I think we'll get to that point as we continue to grow.
Such an exciting proposition that to think that we will hopefully at some point be a business that can help clients no matter where they are and no matter where they're moving to and from, and make sure that we're giving them like perfectly articulated, concise, correct advice at all stages in that journey. I think that's, a big goal, but certainly what we've got to work towards.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't think we're a million miles away from it. Like we can do the business in most of those jurisdictions. And if we're never sure on something, what we've always been encouraged to do is make sure you're sure before you tell a client, right? This is where you bring in your specialists, you bring in your tax advisors. So if you think something might potentially be true, you can maybe raise it and have a conversation. But before a client does anything, it needs to be foolproof. Like the client has to come first with anything that we're doing here. Yeah,
and I think if I've learned anything about client advice, there's a real power in the humility to say, I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to find out for you.
Yeah.
I don't think clients expect you to know absolutely everything, but they want to know that you're going to go and help them find out.
Exactly. Yeah, if you can show that intent, the client will likely stay with you for the longer term, and they can't expect you to know everything about everything.
So you talked about the different nuances in terms of Europe and the different jurisdictions and whatnot. Now, I don't know if this is a stupid question, so forgive me, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
Are there differences between different areas of the US? Because it's obviously made up of lots. It's not a small place, right? And I know that there are different tax arrangements in different states. So does that affect the advice that you give?
Yeah, it can do at times, depending on, especially if they're a US resident. So if you forget the kind of US expat planning that we do a lot of, obviously outside of the US, the domestic planning will be dependent on which state they're living in.
Okay.
So in the US, you've got federal tax, which everyone has to declare and pay. But then you've also got state tax. And not every state has state tax, but the ones that do are usually different to the other states. So you're almost dealing with a mini tax office depending on the state that the client's living in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That keeps you on your toes.
It certainly does. Yeah. Still to this day, 5 years in, you come up against a state which you think you know everything about, but then all of a sudden you didn't realize that this was in place now and there was a slight change here. Like there's one thing keeping up with all of the changes in legislation with the US, but like the individual states are a bit of a minefield to navigate.
Yeah, it is a minefield, right? Because again, if you don't want to be giving anybody wrong advice, right?
No, exactly that. So again, we've got to make sure anything we do, any advice that we give is completely watertight for clients. And again, that might then mean bringing in a tax specialist to put that in writing to back up anything we're saying. Or using a blanket bit of advice that we've received because that advice also applies to 10 other clients as well.
Yeah. So in terms of your personal journey then, you did your exams in the UK, you said?
I did them in the UAE.
Oh, sorry, in the UAE before you moved back to the UK.
In the first 2 years, yeah.
And have you had to take any specialist qualifications then for this niche that you've created, or is it just learnt information?
Yes. So in order to be US regulated, so to have my name under the SEC, which is the US regulator, you've got to do an additional exam on top of your UK level 4 qualifications.
Okay.
So you do
how
your
was
UK
that?
level 4. How was it?
Yeah.
no disrespect to the US exam board system. Hope I'm not offending anyone, but it's probably the most boring exam you'll ever do. It's it's not fun. It's 3 hours long. It's a lot of stuff that it feels like a formality. It's not practical when you're speaking with clients. It's more just rules and regulations, which a lot of,
It's
to be fair,
textbook stuff.
it's textbook stuff. Yeah, a lot of it's important, but in my opinion, a lot of it isn't.
But looking at you now, I'd say that was 3 hours well spent.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm assuming that you did no study, just walked straight into the exam.
Oh,
I'm
I
sure
wish.
it was many
Yeah,
hours. But
it took a few hours to prepare for, yeah. It's not an easy one to pass. Whilst it's quite boring, that almost makes it harder to pass because you're revising and you're trying to stay awake whilst you're revising at the same time.
lots of cups of coffee.
A fair few along the way, yeah. But I did that straight away. Came back to Dubai and they obviously said, right, Matt, can you do the US? So before I could speak to and work with any clients, I had to get that exam done. So I was quite driven to pass that as soon as possible. But anyone that is exploring taking that exam, just be mindful that it could take months to pass.
Okay.
Could be done as quick as 3 or 4 weeks. Like we've got 5 or 6 guys in the Dubai office now that are exploring their options around taking this exam. Some have booked it, some are thinking about booking it, some have failed it and are due to take it again.
And is that study supported by Titan?
Yes, yeah. So the whole kind of exam process, if you pass the exam, it will be covered by the company. There's that policy's always been in place as they want people to continue to develop as years goes by. Like, I mean, as a case study, there was one of the guys who's quite a senior advisor. He's done really well, but he sat me down last week and just said, look, I feel like I need to do another exam just to kind of keep the brain ticking along. And I like the idea of doing the US one. What's it like? So we're all quite keen to learn in the company. We don't usually rest on our laurels.
That's great, though, that you've got people then coming to you and saying, can I talk to you about this? I'd like to do some personal development. Can you help me through it? That's a nice place to be in for you, that people can come to you and ask that.
Yeah, definitely. I think because I've been here now for such a long time, I say such a long time, for 5 years now back in the US space. And it's only, like I said before, it's only really been me at the time anyway, me and a couple of other guys doing it. It's obviously grown into a bigger practice now. But it has, thankfully for me, it has been the case where a lot of advisors would come to me for support when it comes to the US piece. So if there is a client that they've got who has maybe a 401k, which is a US pension, or anything in particular that relates to the US, they 9 times out of 10 have brought me into the conversation piece to
And then do they
assist.
bring you into the client meetings often then as well?
Yeah. I'll join the calls and then I effectively just take things from there. They don't necessarily have to be involved in the US piece. They can be as involved or as uninvolved as they like. Me and my team can handle the rest. Yeah.
And then in terms of just on that exam journey, so you've got your personal charter. Do you feel like that's been quite an important piece in terms of reputability?
Yeah, I think so. I think I mentioned this in the previous podcast with Sam. So I think when you're younger in our industry, where naturally the average age of the advisor Sam mentioned was 56 in the UK, I'm obviously not 56, and a lot of these guys coming in are also not going to be 56. So I think to build the credibility and make up for that lack of experience that you've got, having some exams under your belt, but specifically the chartered exams, goes a long way, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do think that, not including myself in this, but we are quite a young firm, aren't we? I think we buck the trend of the kind of average age of the financial planner. I mean, certainly in the UK. I think
we
that's
lower it, a
nice place to be in, and hope we can have a nice long journey with our clients.
I think so. I mean, the UAE in particular, the average age of this office is definitely not 56. It's a much more, not young to the point where we're inexperienced, but it is more of a younger office than maybe your standard UK advisory team. And there's a lot of benefits to that because I guess of the entrepreneurial side of this part of Titan Wealth International. I think we're quite forward thinking. I think we're quite we've all got a lot of synergies. Like we've all moved out here to better ourselves, to improve our life, etc. And I think that's to show.
I think that's really powerful, right? The fact that, you know, a large portion of the office here has moved out here from their home country, I think that instantly gives you something in common with your clients that you're liaising with who are moving around the world. You understand and empathise with their situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a client of mine I've worked with for years. He's based in Scotland now.
Okay.
And he was an expat for 30 years.
So was living here.
He was living here, there and everywhere, all over the world. And he moved back to Scotland and it said something that stuck with me. It's like, when you're an expat, you're just built slightly differently. Like, people in the UK just don't get it. And I don't really understand what he meant by that, because at that point I'd only done 2 years in Dubai, but now I've done 7 in total. I do get it. There is a slight difference between being an expat, taking that risk of moving overseas and hoping for a better life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favourite part of your job?
Oof. It's a good question. Favourite part?
So for me, I like meeting
yeah.
clients. I like meeting new people. I
Yeah.
really enjoy having conversations. And I would say the vast majority of my time spent with clients is not talking about money or about investments. Just talk about life stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's building relationships, long-term relationships with clients. And I'd say that's up there. Also, being in this office and working around this group of people is also up there. But probably the favorite part is when you get that bit of planning right for a client, and it genuinely changes their life to the point where they can retire 5 years or 10 years earlier, or they can afford their kids' education, or buy the house they wanted.
That's such a tangible outcome,
Amazing,
isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, like you can see the work that you've done, the restructuring of their wealth or planning of their wealth has genuinely changed their life. I'd say that's the favourite.
That's brilliant. And so we talk a lot in the business at the moment as we're all integrating lots of different businesses being taught. And we throw around the term One Titan, which I think is really important to everyone, but means something different to each person. What does One Titan mean to you?
One Titan, to me, means taking all of the names out of if you look under the bonnet of Titan Wealth, there are a whole host of companies and names that have been acquired and bought over the last 5 years. I think if you look at One Titan, it is effectively one company, one jurisdiction. But even though it's not, you could effectively be a client in the US, who then moves to Australia, that then decides to move to Singapore and then moves to the UK, and you're still under Titan. We're still able to service and look after you everywhere. That, I guess, is One Titan. I don't know if that's a good answer.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this chat, Matt. Thanks so much for your time.
Sure. Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you.